Be sure to check out my store for the stuff I use and templates at a low cost, and get my everything pack so you can have everything in my store at a reduced cost, less than $20 if you tweet it out. What's up guys, Qehzy here, bringing you guys another tutorial. And I know it's been a while since my last upload, but I'm back. Going to be uploading regularly again now that school's over. And yeah, so let's just jump into this tutorial. I'm going to be showing you how to create a sort of Asian style, I guess, Japanese style, to be more specific, style banner or header. So yeah, let's go, just jump right into it. So I'm going to be using the YouTube template. Obviously you can use whatever you want. And you can see here I started out with a black background, and we want to change that to a dark red or whatever color you're going to be doing. I recommend just doing red for following along with me, and you can change it at the end or redo it in a different color, up to you. But we're going to double click, actually we're not going to double click, we're going to Command U on that bottom layer. If it's locked, make sure to double click it to unlock it. We're going to check colorize, go to 360 in hue, saturation to 80, and lightness just 2. And you can see, I don't know if you can tell in the recording, but it goes to a dark red, which is what we want. So I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to create a new layer and go to the brush tool, and I'm going to get a brush that I have in my brush pack. What's it called? AE. And you want to go ahead and use this if you have my brush pack. If you don't, I recommend buying it. It's only like $2 or something in my store. The link will be in the description. Or if you really don't have the money to do it, if this video hits 100 likes, the file will be in the description, so you can download it and get it there. Or you can just find a replacement brush somewhere else for now. Maybe do your own little thing with it. But I'm going to be using this brush. It's AE, and I'm going to be using a size of 1100 pixels, which just fits half the YouTube template width. So I'm going to go something and click, do something like this and click on the left side, create something like that. And I guess, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and Command T on that layer and flip it and bring it down sort of right about there works. And then I'm just going to duplicate it and drag it over and maybe have a little bit of intersection going on there in the middle so it doesn't look too bad. You kind of want it to blend together and not look like two separate entities. So that looks pretty good, and we're going to merge that together and call this red. Alright, cool. Now we're going to duplicate this a few times and put it in the background of various colors. So let's just do Command J on the keyboard, and we're going to bring this one below. This one's going to be called black. I gotta capitalize that B. And then duplicate it again and call this one dark red. Alright, so let's first, I'm going to uncheck the black one, go with the dark red one, and I'm going to hit Command U and just bring the lightness down, maybe 30 for now. We might make it even darker, but let's hit Command T, and I'm going to zoom out here, and let's press Shift Alt and expand the size just a little bit, so maybe like that. That'll work. And then let's go to the black one, and let's go to Command U, and we're gonna make this really a lot darker, so 67. And let's actually flip these, put the black one on top of the dark red one, and actually let's make the dark red a little bigger. So it takes up a lot of the space in the corners and stuff. And let's get that black one, and that sounds racist, but expand the size of that slightly, not bigger than the dark red, in between the red and the dark red, somewhere like that. And then we can go ahead and just decrease the opacity of that until it sort of blends well with everything. So somewhere around there looks pretty good. So now we have a red, we have a darker red, and then we have the darkest red. So it's like 3 combinations, and I'm actually going to go to that dark red, and like I said earlier, I might adjust it. I'm going to bring it a little darker. So -20, so that's a -50 total increase from the original red. And of course, I might adjust that later on. You can adjust it however you feel. And yeah, so let's go ahead above the black layer and create a new layer. And every time I say that, it sounds so racist. I don't know why. And we'll stick with that red for now, and we'll make it darker after we add it. But we're gonna go to the brushes again, and again, these are my brushes, so sorry if you don't have them. Yada yada stuff I said before. And what is this called? Like scratch, I believe. We're gonna get this brush, and this is kind of like a whirly brush, and I'm just gonna kind of click around again, something like that. And let's go ahead and Command U, bring the darkness down. So you don't want it to be the same color as any of the other reds. Maybe I'll go a little darker than everything else before. So like that. That looks pretty cool. We'll stick with that. Now let's go to the above the red, or select the red layer and create a new layer so the layer is above that. And now I'm just going to flip these colors so I have that red, and I'm going to select that white and make it a dark gray, basically black. And we're going to go back to that original AE brush, and this time we're going to make it a lot smaller, and we're not going to flip it. We're just going to kind of use it as is, and we'll go right in the middle of each of these sections, and we're going to slap that on overlay and decrease the opacity somewhere around there. Alright, so now we have a bunch of variation in colors and things, and we could make this a little brighter. It's pretty dull right now, but I kind of like it, and we're going to keep it that way for the moment. Alright, now let's select everything we have right now, and I guess the top one isn't that important, so I'm just going to go from red to dark red, and Command J to duplicate that, and I'm going to hit Command E to merge that all into one. And this is just going to be called BG, and this should be the bottommost layer. And let's zoom out here, and we're going to expand the size of this because there's still some bits that I didn't mean to do that, but there's some bits of this that aren't covered, some of the areas that aren't covered and kind of look off a little weird, so like down in this corner. And I'm just going to adjust this where this background is so it takes up some of that space there. That looks a little odd, and we're gonna go ahead and just decrease the opacity of that guy overall, and like that. So if you uncheck that, you can see like this dark space, and like up here, kind of I just don't like it. It's too big of a break, so you just add that, and it kind of fills it in a little bit better. And yeah, now we can add a final touch. If you want to go with like a Japanese theme, which is what I did, you can do this step. It still works with like any Asian theme, but if you don't want the Asian theme, I guess you don't have to add it, which is just adding some Japanese text. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep black and get the text tool and get the font Japanese, I believe it's called Japanese regular. Yeah, so I don't know when I downloaded this font, but I had it and used it, and it looks pretty cool. So just go ahead and download that. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description, but you can go ahead and type whatever you want and the characters will come up. So I like to do one letter at a time, and I'm actually gonna make this a little bit bigger, maybe 60, and I'm just gonna go, that's a Q. I'm gonna duplicate maybe 4 more. Actually, I'll do one more just to do my name. E A H Z Y. And then you can just go ahead and start moving these different places. And then you're going to want to duplicate them to like the other side and stuff too, but I like to add just a little bit of rotation to them so they're not all straight. Actually, probably should move that one away from the dark spot. Alright, cool. And then duplicate all those and just bring them to the other side. And there you go. Now you got some Japanese text sprinkled in here. And you might want to put all those, select them all and put them in a group, Command G. And I'm just going to do letters. And you can decrease the opacity of these, you can put them on overlay, you can do whatever you want. They kind of blend in pretty well, like they don't pop out that much when you look at the background. So I'm just going to decrease them slightly. And that should work, about 54%. They're still there, but they're not overwhelming. And now that's it for basically the background portion of it, so we can move on to the text. So the banner I made for the client, he obviously wanted it to say Dragon Goes to Japan, so that's a pretty long name. Most of you probably don't have long names like that you're going to be putting on. I mean, it's usually a one word name or 2 word names. You usually don't have 4. So I'm going to show you the 4, but it's pretty easy to adjust for 2, and you could just do 1, although 1 might look a little weird. You might have to separate that word into a top and a bottom. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but let's just, I'm going to make my black white, get the text tool, and I'm going to bring up my guides to get this centered. And I'm actually going to pick the font, it's like Admissy. Is that an L? I can't even really tell, but it's this font right here. I'll have it spelled out on the screen for you guys if I remember to do that, and hopefully put a download in the description for you guys too. But I'm just going to click in the middle, and I'm just going to do Dragon. Obviously you can do your name, and I'm going to center that. And instead of changing the font size, I'm just going to Command T and expand it, and we're going to bring it up top. I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate that now and drag it down, and this is going to say Japan, obviously for Dragon Goes to Japan. And the font I'm going to be using is 7 Swordsman. This is a pretty common font I've seen, so you guys might have that one, but I'll try to remember to put the download in the description for that as well. So this is basically the text. There's also Goes To in the middle, but we'll add that in a second. So I'm going to double click on the dragon text, which is like the kind of standard text, and we're just going to add a little bit of stoof to it. So I'm going to go ahead and add a bevel first off, and I'm going to change the depth so it's not that much, and I'm going to decrease the opacity of the black. That's about good. I'm going to also add a gradient, and this is just going to be a basic black to white gradient. And I'm going to have it on normal and just decrease the opacity a lot, so you can see right there, 25% normal black to white. Nothing too special. And let's go ahead and add a drop shadow as well. And I'm going to go on a slight angle, and let's bump up the distance maybe a tad. And yeah, that works. That looks pretty good. And the last thing we want to do is add a stroke. And I don't remember what color I did. Did I do black? I actually did a gradient. I'm just going to do black to a dark gray. Maybe even grayer or lighter. Okay, outside I'm going to do 2 size font. Standard 90, yeah, that works. And one last thing, I want to go to the bevel and emboss. And where is it? We're going to change technique to chisel hard. And then decrease the size a little bit, and then we can bump up the gradient because it kind of looks like it's going away. There we go. So that's essentially the dragon text. I'm going to click OK on that, and then let's go to the Japan text. And the Japan layer style is a lot more basic. I'm actually going to double click on the Japan text and make it red. Maybe a little brighter red. I don't know. We can change that. But let's double click on that layer style. Go to gradient overlay. This time we're going to set the gradient overlay to overlay. And we can bump up the opacity now. I'm going to do an inner glow overlay. Bring up the opacity a little bit. Yeah, we should make that text a little darker red. And then we'll also add a drop shadow. And then I'm going to just select that and darken it up a bit. Maybe something like that. And actually the inner glow is not showing up, is it? Oh no, it is. It's just too big. Oh, 27, that's fine. And then actually we should probably decrease this a little bit. Alright, so something like that. I know it's hard to see right now, but we will change that in a second. And I'm going to decrease the size of the dragon text real quick, so it's similar to the size of the Japan text. And finally, I'm going to add that middle text just in case you guys are curious as to what it is. And what is it? Goes to. And the font I used was that lobster font, which everyone uses for cursive, so something like that. And I believe I made this all caps, which is not a good idea. Is my caps lock on? What the heck? Oh, gotta go individually and make this all lowercase real fast. Alright, struggling too much with that. This is just gonna stay as is. Gonna decrease the size slightly, and then let's bring her in. I'm going to bring that to the top of the text layers, and we could move this, we could center this, we could do whatever we want with it. And all I'm going to do is add a simple gradient, not an overlay, a normal one, and decrease the opacity, and we'll add a small drop shadow. And yeah, that's basically it. I'm going to bump up the Japan text a little bit, bump up the goes to text a little bit, and I'm going to select all of this and Command T and just put a slight tilt on it. And then I'm also going to Command J to duplicate it all, Command E to merge it, drag that merge layer to the bottom of the text, and we're going to go filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and let's blur the crap out of this, 6 pixels. We're going to make the lightness black, and then let's go to filter, blur, motion blur, and we're going to go, actually we could go on an angle, that would look pretty sweet. I'm going to go on a slight angle, 22 degrees, and we're going to bump that up to like 100 pixels or so. Click OK. That looks pretty alright. And if you're struggling to see the Japan text, we can create a new layer, get a black, get your brush tool. You can just get a simple soft brush, and we can just kind of click behind the Japan text and decrease the opacity of that. And there you go, you can see that a little bit better. And should I decrease this? That's fine. We'll leave that as that. So that's basically the text for that guy. I also added a couple Asian letters or Japanese letters behind the text. Actually, if I just bump over here, you can see like the black letters. And I think that might actually help make this stand out a little bit more. So let's do that. It's actually above the shadow layers, so just do that. Get your text tool, get black. I'm just going to type 2 letters and get the Japanese font. Boom. Select those, bump up the size, throw them behind. You can add a layer style to them. I did, but I don't think it's really necessary. And you can just decrease the opacity if you feel there's a need to, or leave it as that. I think 73% is alright, and I'm just gonna actually bump everything up like that. That looks basically the same that I did before. Pretty sweet. Now let's move on to, I guess it's the second last step, and it's just adding a couple things above the text. So like some wisps and stuff, I guess. But let's start out by creating a new layer, and you just want to get that soft brush since we already have it selected, and I'm going to bump up the size 500, 400, somewhere in there. I'm going to have black and go across the bottom holding shift like so, and I'm going to decrease the opacity of that about somewhere in the 30s. Create a new layer. This time we want to get white. Do the same thing to the top. And you can actually set it to overlay on the top if you wish, or soft light. It's up to you really. I guess I'll just leave it at soft light and bring this down somewhere into the 40s. Actually, what does overlay look like? Yeah, I like overlay a little bit more. We'll stick with that. And then just go below those 2 layers, create a new layer. And so I stopped naming things too, by the way. I just named those bottom ones. I don't know if you guys caught on to that. That's kind of a habit of mine. I always want to be neat and organized, and never end up doing it. But let's go back to that one wispy brush we had. This guy, what was he called? Scratch. We want to get Scratch, and we want to get that red that I've been saving over here this whole time. And now let's go ahead and get some wisp wisps, I guess you could call them, like above the text and stuff. So I'm just gonna go something like that. Alright, cool. And you can do this a couple ways. You can use the eraser tool, or you can add a mask layer. And actually, I'm just gonna get the eraser tool. It's a lot easier. I'm gonna get the eraser tool, soft brush, bump up the size. I'm gonna erase the whole left side where that just came, or that where that just was placed. Erase some of it there. Erase a bit of it on the text. And we want to be able to read the J. Ooh, boom. Get rid of some of it here. Erase around like so. And we can duplicate that and either just move it over like that, or you can flip it. I think I'm gonna keep it like this. Erase all this. Let's go back to the original and erase all this. I don't like that. And boom, yeah, there we go. And if we want to, we can merge those. And you can duplicate that a few more times and use other brushes. And we can add a drop shadow to get a little bit better of a look. But since we used a soft brush to erase, it might look a little funky. So that's optional. But that's basically the whole design right there. Now we want to go ahead and add the final step, which is the color correction. And what I used first off was a photo filter, and I used a warming filter. So I'm just gonna keep it as the default one. Maybe the second one is a little better. I don't know. I'm just gonna keep it as that first one, and then I'm gonna get a what's it called, gradient map. And there's this purple and orange that pretty much people use for everything. And I'm going to be using it on this, and we're going to set that to overlay and decrease the opacity quite a bit, somewhere in the 30s. And this will kind of make the whites orange, and I feel like that looks a lot better with red. And next thing is to add a hue and saturation, and we're just going to bump down the saturation a little bit, get a little bit of a darker vibe. If you want it, you can bump it up, go brighter. I bumped mine down and I liked it, but I don't know. We were using dull colors to kind of start off with, so I guess this is not very necessary. But you can also change the colors of this now, because we are at that step. And depending on the colors, you might want to get rid of the orange gradient that we just added. But I'm going to keep it as red. And then the final bottom-most color correction layer, we want curves. And I'm just going to slightly tweak this down. And that should darken everything up. So that's basically this banner style. You can see the Japan text could have been a little brighter. But yeah guys, that's basically it. Hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, be sure to drop a like. At 100 likes, I'll include the banner in the description for you guys to download. And I know a lot of you guys hate when I plug my stuff to buy, and you guys don't want to buy it, so that's your incentive to get it to 100 likes, and then boom, you can have the brushes and stuff already pre-made and for you and everything. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more tutorials, as I'm going to be uploading regularly again. Follow me on Twitter at Qehzy, and feel free to add my Snapchat, which is also Qehzy, though I haven't been using it recently. But yeah guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.